And the magic machine tells me that I'm live, so hopefully I'm live. The magic machine tells me that I'm live, so hopefully I'm live with no audio interruptions. And everything is okay with me. And unfortunately, sorry to hear if not everything is okay with everybody else out there. My love and prayers with everybody. And we say hello to the elephant in the room. Gold medal out to the elephant in the room. Silver medal out to Jilly Beans. Bronze medal out to Juicy J. There we go. We have our medal holders. There we go. A quick race. A quick race. That's how it goes. That's how it goes. So, without further ado, let me go ahead. I'm going to do this just to make sure that I stay as clean and clear and focused as possible, to make sure that I get through some early stuff. Yada, yada, yada. Micro Chapbook RPG World. Wow. Noah Patterson. I wanted to say this. So, you know, my reviews, I'm not a professional, reviewer. Um I, I'm an RPG aficionado. I'm not uh I don't run a store online or brick and mortar. I run no fanzine or magazine, no online publication. I'm no member of the publishing community. I don't know how the market works, how market shares operate. I don't know what anybody's possible projected income stream is. I don't know what it would mean to be successful or unsuccessful in this business. I don't know. I wouldn't know how to advise someone how to run their operation, their shop, when it comes to being a wise or an unwise publisher of tabletop RPG materials in 2022. You know what I mean? It's an evolving market, to say the least, but I don't know if it's evolving for the positive in, any form of print media, to say the least, of, print media in the form of game material. You know what I mean? So, but anyway, where I'm going with this is this. Perchance my critiques and criticisms of the House of P, House Patterson, in regards to level design, may have been a bit heavy-handed in consideration of the fact that the project involved putting out 31 dungeons in 31 days. Noah Patterson intended to put out. I think they don't show any signs that they're quitting. Basically, here's what happened. So Noah Patterson. So maybe some of my critiques or criticisms are. Maybe a little bit heavy-handed. I'm again distracted by people are texting me for us. Hold on. Beginning of the month of October, Noah Patterson put out this plan to put out essentially 30 a dungeon a day, a mini dungeon a day for their micro RPG platform. I pondered this, wondering if it was wise economically for the market, whatever. Look, and maybe the intellect or the gifts that it takes to be a great creative and a great artist may not be necessarily the great gifts or the same gifts that make one a great business person, right? So, and I noticed this because like there was the central theme to a lot of the project, to these dungeons, were, the animals, and at one point one of the animals was an eagle, and my comment on Instagram was, admit it, Noah, you're running out of animals. It was a catty comment. I felt bad about it after the fact, but anyway, so the dungeons were priced at 99 cents a piece, and if you did the math, eventually at the end of the project, if a person was committed, and a lot of people do desire to have all of Noah's work. I certainly do. That's not Noah's fault. But if you do the calculation, that means that at the end, a person would be looking at throwing down about 30 bones plus. Now, if you look at Noah's like epic works, like the advanced character, um, handbook, or the advanced, dungeon, or even, the basic edition rule book, for the hardcovers, that's what you're 25 bucks is kind of what you're paying for, and you're getting a lot more than necessarily what you would be looking at getting when you look at these dungeons, which are essentially when you take out the repetitive materials, which would be, the repeated, gameplay introductions and whatever. It's basically just a series of tables. Um, so there's been a price drop for the modules and the dungeons moving forward. So I think that's one of the one of the news items that I think I want to bring to you, that I think I'm bringing as part of the news of the day for, micro chapbook RPGs, that there's been a price drop announced for the Halloween mini dungeons moving forward. And if I go to, I don't have my Instagram hooked up to my my computer, so I'm looking at my phone. So let me go this. Also, whatchamacallit, if you don't feel like going to Drive Through RPG on the daily and getting the mini dungeons at the end of the week, they're being bundled into collections, so you can pick them up at the end. So here we go. So like the week 2 dungeons, the entire week 2 collections are available for $5. You can get all of the week 2 dungeons for $5. It's not bad, not bad. So I think a lot of my analysis. Oh, like look, the October 13th ones were the ones for the kittens, and so here's what happened on October the 13th. This is boo. It's day 13 of the countdown to Halloween, and I'm lowering the cost of the future release for the series to 50 to 75 cents, depending on the content. I'm making them ever so slightly shorter so they are easier for me to get out to you each day. Now for the price of a gumball. from a gumball machine, you can get a new dungeon each day. Today's dungeon features cats, and I'll show you the little pic because it's darling. That's worth it. That's yeah. Okay. Oh, come on. And I left a comment. I think my comment should be there. I wrote, "I love you. My heart aches that your pen started to give out when you finally got to the kitties. I knew daily was going to be too much for you and the audience. It was literally a fucking burden to go to drive-through." Oh, and there's a response here. Wait, let me see. Good burden to go through drive-through, and then I wrote, "Heart, heart, heart. You're a rock star." And they responded. No responded. "Well, I knew when I started that I'd have to possibly parse down the length I was doing. I always have a big ambitions, but I only so much time and energy. After this month, fingers crossed, I'm hoping to hone down the focus to the micro RPG company to make more awesome books, but in a more manageable way." There you go. Let's heart that comment. There you go. So, you know what I mean? And also, what I want to point out is this: in addition to all this content, these mini dungeons that Noah's been putting out, I looked today because I knew I was going to be filming an episode today. So I looked today to see, okay, well, might as well check out what's going on with the black ink depths. Oh, let me get my hard copy here because then we'll show it off too. You can also get, let me point this out too. So I think I was a little too hard, and I want to encourage people to think, especially now that the price has dropped. The Kitties one for October 13th, you might be one to check out. Look at this also too. This is available on Amazon for not that much money. A couple of bucks, but check this out. So here's the Black Ink Dev starter module that people know I gave a not so hot review on based on the fact that I argued that the characters produced here would be low level and not up to snuff to deal with the Black Ink Depths dungeons, including the Gargoyle Garden dungeon included in the actual starter module itself. Having said that, it doesn't change the fact that this is the micro RPG module associated with the 2022 Halloween season. Happy Halloween 2022. If you get this hard copy, you have a physical reminder of your participation, you're experiencing your potlatch with this little part of the community. And it's a little part of the history. I know I've got my copy. I know, no, you know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? Maybe I'll send it back to Noah, be like, sign it, bitch. I know you know fuck I am. Hooker, sign it. I sold more than one copy of your books. Sign my fucking copy of fucking Black Ink Depths. But Halloween, October 1st, that's with the, I love this. I love the Pride Lips, Vampire Lips. I love that. And you'll always know, even though I don't think they're up to snuff for handling this particular dungeon, if you generate characters, and you can always generate characters from here and use them for wherever. Characters generated from here will always be characters generated from the Halloween 2022 generation, right? They'll always have a little bit of that magic. Die here, poof, you're resurrected some other world. Maybe as a vampire or something, you know what I mean? So it's a little bit of physical history that you can get, printed up from Amazon. If you want a physical reminder, just print it up out of your hard drive. Anyway, as I was saying, I got a little bit distracted. So in addition to the black ink depths going on, I look on Drive Through RPG, boom, boom, boom. What do I see? The hits just keep on coming because Noah has dropped something else today. Let me get to it. More product is dropped from Micro RPG. Actually, let me use the designer's terminology, because actually this is good, because we're going to see what am I doing here? I'm screwing things up. I apologize. Bear with me. Oh my goodness. Where am I? I don't even know what I'm trying to do. Oh, here we go. A new installment for the Midnight series dropped. So this is a complete game in the for the company. The Midnight series are self-contained games, and actually, what's interesting is I've previously complained because I've previously went on bits of tears where I critiqued and criticized, saying that I don't get it. The messaging from Micro RPG had been everything was supposed to be 1.75 rule set. What's going on? Now there's things that aren't 1.75 rule set. The language has been clarified and changed. I'm not saying it's because of me. I don't think it's because of me. I think that many people have said the same thing. I think the things that I'm picking up on and have picked up on, other people have picked up on. So there is more distinct messaging happening. Whether or not it's going to work, what do I think is going to happen? I think that, it's like what's happening with Funko. Funko, in an attempt to deal with the fact that they know that Funko Pops is kind of getting a little bit long in the tooth. Now, in the back row, we see that Funko has like 18 million things that are not Funko Pops, but are Funko Crickle cushion, Funko soda heads, Funko expandable arms, and Funko big fists. Like there's 1,003 things that are not Funko Pops, but Funko has that they think might be the next Funko Pop. So it's like we'll see. I'll show you when I pull up the PDF. And what I think is what I'm gonna give. Previously, I've talked about, when I talked about the black ink depths, I talked about, in regards to the level design, I said, oh, these levels, they're not balanced right, they're not balanced good, they're da 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 da. Maybe I should have balanced my critique with a fairer helping of a more balanced approach of, but let's take into consideration that these aren't $30 core rule books. These are 99-cent print them out as you go PDF modules on Drive Through RPG. Hey, buddy, it's the price of less than a fraction of a Starbucks. So, buddy, why don't you take a Alka-Seltzer, sit back down in your chair, and relax about whether or not Space Ghost Coast to Coast rolled up with the black ink depth starter module rules has a plus or minus 20% chance of surviving that first dungeon compared to the guys in Micro Chapbook Castle of the Dead. Okay, Kimosabi, just relax. You know, maybe I should have congratulated Noah on trying some different things, throwing some more different things out there, versus being, so hypercritical maybe so much of the time. And also take into consideration the fact that these modules were being produced, in a day. Um, and maybe also take into consideration, how many of these, pieces were they actually selling, and if I'm trying to support this, project and product, you know what I mean? Maybe not kick the person in the back. Anyway, but then again, at the same time, and when I said that, I think the leveling got better. Anyway, that's that. That's that. So anyway, but I do want to look at this. Let me show you this. Let me go back to here. This. Jilly Beans asks, will there be a patron stream this weekend? There may be a patron stream this weekend. I don't know. It is on my mind that there hasn't been a Patreon stream in a while. So I will try to make one happen. Julie Bean says, CW, I got the Halloween Oracle deck that you have. It looks like a good one. So far, I've been pulling a card from it on the daily, and I don't think you'll be disappointed. There you go. There you go. Wonderful. Oh, there you go. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So, speaking of, the reason that I want to mention the thing about level design and interesting level design stuff is because in regards to the new game, Blackout Manor, for micro RPG, I call it micro chapbook RPG, the Midnight series. I've looked through the rules twice. So there are two things that I can say about level design. I've obviously not played through the game. And this is the sort of thing, the sort of micro RPG experiment that I might, first of all, Noah works with such rapidity, and it takes me so long to get, so I'm still playing the 1.5 games. Listen, over the course of Halloween, I've been going crazy playing Castle of the Dead, Lair of the Lizard Men, you know what I mean? House of Vermin. That's how I get down. I'm not done enjoying those games. I'm still enjoying the misadventures of +1 on a dexterity roll. I don't need to mess around with esoteric Silent Hill, Resident Evil style complex puzzle mechanics for, instead of a simple boss dungeon end resolution. Yeah, maybe one day I'll get there. Maybe I'll understand why a lot of people feel the need. But that's me. But in regards, so a lot of this stuff may just be, but that doesn't mean that this stuff is not still interesting to look at, understand, and try and grasp in a lot of ways. And when I look at a lot of this stuff, sometimes I can see just what sometimes it's just interesting to see what kind of mechanic it looks like Noah is trying to get into micro RPG. Classic example I always come back to is Guildhall Gambit. When I looked at Guildhall Gambit, it was so cool to say, you go, look, you know, I know looking at Noah Patterson's back catalog that he's written modules for Dungeon Crawl Classics. And I'm looking at Guildhall Gambit, and I know enough about Dungeon Crawl Classics to know it involves this thing with this concept of running level 0 pre-adventure adventures through what's known as a character funnel, where you're taking literally sub-level characters, knowing that some of them are going to die, to see who is going to survive to become like almost a level 1 character. I saw it, and I could grok that was kind of what was going on in that module. It was kind of cool to see that. Though actually playing with, 4 players, controlling 3 characters in that game, as you do in that game, isn't necessarily my bag as a micro RPG player. It was still cool to see how Noah manipulated the core mechanics of micro RPG to get sub level 1 characters going, and to kind of break it down that way. It was interesting to see. In the same way, where I'm going with this is that in this game, there's 2 ways that we can see mechanics being utilized that jumped right out at me. There might be more things, more people might find different things going on with this game, this particular instance of micro RPG, solo game, Midnight Series solo game. The 2 things for me that lie on the surface are basically the emulation of they go in two different camps, and one of them I'm going to touch upon, but I'm not going to touch. The other one I'm going to touch upon, talk about a little, but neither one I'm going to go into in depth because I haven't played the game, so it doesn't really make much sense to. The one thing is, there's an Atari game, a first generation Atari game called Haunted House. And one of the things that it does, and it's kind of like, it's a better concept than it works in execution. It kind of involves you playing a video game in the simulated dark. And this game has a similar mechanic. Let me see if I can get to it. Let me see if I can find it. The candle, 40, darkness and blackout, 45. The Halloween costume is cool. Okay, here we go. We're gonna get to this too. The connect. Okay, your darkness. Blackout man is pitch black inside. Your only light is your candle. This means you can only see your current room and any adjacent room with the door open. Either it is an open door when it is rolled, or you've opened it at some point. Any room that was previously drawn but no longer inside of your candle is erased from the map as it has vanished into darkness. Now that is going to be, first of all, it's going to be a hard mechanic to do. Honestly, it's going to be hard to do perfectly erasing a map, but whatever. It's also going to be a pain in the ass. So a lot of this stuff, when we do this stuff, so like when I've been experimenting with these wild like Halloween Monster Mash builds for you guys, and when I know I've only done one video on one, but behind the scenes I've been doing more of them, and they're crazy. And a lot of these powers, if you do them, they can stack and it can turn into like Diablo style like wipeouts. But the crazy thing about them, when you're doing them yourself, and it's not a computer that's doing the numbers, when it's not a computer, doing the thing, when it's you, it's not as much fun. And like you got to actually keep track of this stuff. It's harder. So it's very, very cool in concept, but actually doing it can be painstaking, and it can be really painstaking if you're for me, a guy like me, some of this stuff can be anxiety inducing. Why? You feel like you're going to screw it up. You feel like you're going to get it wrong. Blackout. When your candle goes out, this is called a blackout. You can only see your current room. Erase all other rooms. All rolls are made as if you are weakened in the darkness. All horror ratings are increased by +1. All stat rolls are increased by +1. The other thing that's cool is that it involves you generating 4 characters and trying to get them out of that haunted house, basically one at a time. You have a connection rating between the different players, and that works into a mechanic. And that mechanic of getting the 4 players out one at a time is very interesting, because that's very reminiscent of some of the first generation horror RPGs, even on the NES. Because there was another. I think I might be confusing another. There was another role-playing game on the NES. I mentioned one on the Atari called Haunted House. I think there was another video game on the NES called Haunted House or something that had a similar mechanic with getting players out one at a time. Also, that's also kind of reminiscent of like the first like Friday the 13th role-playing game on the NES. I think had a similar mechanic of getting people out one at a time. Getting the campers out one at a time. I might be remembering this wrong. But that's kind of interesting. So there's some interesting mechanics here. Some of these complex modules that Noah's been producing, sometimes I think that what's going to end up happening with these modules and me is that I'll end up going through them once, twice, 3 times, reading through them, and then realizing, okay, not this module as written, but this mechanic, this mechanic, the 4 players getting them out one at a time, this candle and the light burning out or erasing the rooms one at a time. There'll be one or 2 things that I'll take that might work. Or maybe it's a case of just me being just overwhelmed that in reading it seems too much, but in execution, it won't be as hard. Here's another thing that I think is interesting in this module, that maybe the other stuff might be too daunting, but this by itself might be great and can just come out by itself to make a more simplified version. Here in Blackout Manor, the central theme involves a Halloween party. So check this out. Halloween costumes. You will begin by character creation begins by picking out a Halloween costume. That'll grant you a +1 bonus to your main stats. We all know that by this point, but central aspect of character creation involves an aspect that will create a bonus to one of your stats. You could choose to have it be a regular costume or a sexy costume. I'm paraphrasing here. If you choose to have a sexy costume, the bonus is doubled, but your health rating is halved as you're not being well protected. Now, that is going to actually work differently depending on whether you take your bonus in a stat that affects your health bonus, like a bonus to to strength or dexterity, or whether or not you take a bonus to wits or charisma. So that's gonna affect builds. So that's actually a little interesting build dynamic that could affect things down the line. And you might actually decide to throw Halloween costumes in space to see how that dynamic or that mechanic might affect different things, or have Halloween costumes at a gang fight, or at a something else, military convention. Now, here's something else: childhood trauma. Here's another mechanic that's going to get worked with: the notion of confronting, in addition to working into the random encounter with monsters. Worked into this is the random encounter with triggering memories. And there is a trigger warning that appears all over this material. And I will tell you that it is appropriate that there's a trigger warning. You know, we joke around sometimes about trigger warnings and people needing to be in safe spaces or in hug boxes. No. Noah is an experienced horror writer, and they make no secrets of being a horror aficionado, and they are a real horror aficionado. This is not Scream, okay? This is not confronting tough childhood memories like, Mommy, why didn't you ever embrace me and my desire to dance? You know, no, this is, with the Band-Aid pulled off, really, tough language stuff. So I'm not going to read it out loud, but, you should be, forewarned is forearmed. There's tough stuff, you know, um, stuff about physical violence and, mental abuse, that is there and is put out there and is rolled up. Whether the mechanic works, what is the intention of the mechanic? I think it's handled well. I don't think it's handled childishly. I don't think it's handled patronizingly. I would tell you if it was. I wouldn't mention the module if I thought it was. If I thought the module was an embarrassment, I would tell Noah privately that I thought it was. If I thought it was a fuck up, I would tell Noah privately that I thought it was. Noah could tell you that, I would be willing to tell Noah privately that it was. I wouldn't mention it if I thought it was an embarrassment. It's not. It Do I think it deserves the Nobel Prize in psychological breakthroughs in dealing with childhood trauma? No, but it is what it is. It attempts to work into the module a dynamic of healing through exposure in a non-exploitive, non-patronizing kind of their way. You know what I mean? And I think it's handled well enough. For my money, I find the blackout dynamic more interesting, but that might have more to do with my ability to handle physical mechanics better than dealing with emotional stuff. But who knows? So there's that. So in addition to the daily mini dungeons being released, micro RPG fans have another entry into the rainbow. No, what is this called here? The friggin', what the hell do they call this thing here? The Midnight series. the Midnight series. Let me go to this language here. There's some better language here that I think helps clear this up. There we go. Ba-ba-ba. And what it really did is that it clarified for me a lot of the stuff that I was complaining about as far as separating out. Oh, here we go. The different systems. So I think this is going to be great. Here we go. Let me do this. Da 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 da. Let me go back to you guys. Here's Spooky swinging by, watching a friend smash an interview. Love you all. New Chanter Vision soon. There you go. Never mention anybody else's content on anybody else's stream. General rule of thumb. We just generally don't do that. You know what I mean? But thank you for doing Chanter Vision. That is awesome. That is always awesome. Here we go. Da da da. Go over here. Here we go. Introduction. So micro RPG is an ultra simple role-playing game designed with a solo player in mind. Here we go. Micro RPG system games. Micro Chapbook RPG, the original fantasy themed book, which featured 0.0 edition, 1.0 edition, and 1.75 edition. Micro Sci-Fi RPG, a basic sci-fi iteration of the game, which similarly included 0.0, 1.0, and 1.75 editions. Micro Horror RPG, a basic modern horror iteration, Neon Road in the 80s. So basically what happens here is that when I was saying that, everything was supposed to be 1.75, but now these midnight editions don't do that, here's a clarification that says the 1.75 were for Micro Chapbook RPG and Micro Sci-Fi RPG. Okay, well then there you go. That's fine. Then that works. The only problem is that then you have all these other projects that no one is going to understand where they fit in at all. That's fine. They're all cross-compatible. It doesn't really matter because they're all cross-compatible. Micro RPG Midnight Series. The book you're now reading is now part of the Micro RPG Midnight Series, with all books in the series indicated by its black covers. Blah, blah, blah. So as with all products in the micro RPG, so anyway, so there you go. So it's fine. It's all good. So again, it basically says like everything's cross compatible, and like everything is cross compatible, and it continues to be cross compatible. So it remains cross compatible, and we're perfect. And there we go. So moving on. So look, what do I think? I think it continues to be cross-compatible, and there will be, at the end of October, another bajillion million products for it, and I'll continue to support it and continue to talk about it. Now, moving on, a general Halloween gaming update from me. And we say hello to the Spiked Axe. Spiked Axe, haven't seen you in a while. Thank you for coming by, the Spiked Axe. A complete non sequitur. The D12 solo combat rules by a mysterious individual known as Kara Kong. I cannot find Tale of them on Drive-Thru RPG. I can hardly find Tale of them on the internet other than on Amazon. Their Amazon reviews are plagued by allegations that they are a thief and a plagiarizer. The D12 solo combat rules are a ultra simplified version and kind of hybridization of Tunnels and Trolls and like old school adventure books like Fabled Lands, or maybe what's the example they use? Fighting Fantasy. I got the D12 solo combat rules and loved them. So I immediately got the other books, including this Halloween module, also written by the mysterious Karakong. And Karakong apparently is a pen name, obviously, because Karakong is a wizard of some note, kind of like the Ravenloft type character for Tunnels and Trolls, I guess, or some central character. Karakong might be a pen name of an individual named Donald Weiss, because Donald Weiss is also credited with a lot of this anime style artwork. And Donald Weiss also produces a line of Tunnels and Trolls self-published stuff on Amazon, which is also fascinating. And they have their own line of Tunnels and Trolls alternative rules as well. So I'm fascinated by this stuff. And so I've been playing this Once Upon a Harvest Eve module the last couple of nights, taking a break from while I was working on trying to understand Borg and how it can interface with Microtropic RPG, and interfaces with Microtropic RPG perfectly. Now, here's the funny thing about my Microborg project. Yesterday, I worked dutifully going through a checklist and noting how perfectly Microborg will work and how perfectly Borg and MicroRPG can interface so perfectly. And I took these notes and I went through this checklist and I wrote it purposely large enough so that I could show it to you on screen and whatever. And then you know what I did? I left those notes at home, apparently. But then today, delivered from Amazon, I got this thing, the Morkborg Cult Ferritory. And essentially all our problems were solved, because yesterday all I was working with was the central Morkborg book. And when we last did our last episode, I fumbled through some playthrough and, fumbled through drawing up the first dungeon, kind of thinking about what might work or what might not work. And I could tell you, after sitting through yesterday, taking some notes, I could tell you that no, we could do this in 3 seconds, because especially with the Ferritory, because in the Ferritory, they have this section called Eat, Pray, Kill that's designed to do hunting expeditions. But what it has is it has a series of D6 tables. And all of these essentially are exactly perfectly the tables we need to do monster tables for Micro RPG. Micro RPG uses D6 tables for the monsters, right? Yes. And here I had one here, Valley of the Unfortunate Undead, on page 19, that will work perfectly. It will work perfectly as is. Number 6, the Bone Mare, can work as the boss monster. So perfectly. We got a perfect functioning dungeon. I thought, well, like, look here, look. Let's get a bog standard. Let me show you how quickly we can do this. Let's get a bog standard micro chapbook RPG on the table to work with. And let's use it and turn it into a Borg auto dungeon so that we could, and they even have, there's a on the Borg website, they have a thing they have a character generator. So I used it to make, how many characters did I make? I made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 characters. We'll just shuffle them. Am I even shuffling? I don't know what I'm doing here. Down over there. Over the top. And I was looking, because now look, and also this is that, because when I was looking last night and I just had the main thing, we have our cheat sheet from Borg. Look how the combat is so simple, easy. And I figured out what I was doing wrong with the armor. It's really easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Oh, and when you get the Borg cult territory, they send you this game that it came from called Dark Fort. And you realize that Dark Fort, this game that Borg originated from, which is this simple dungeon crawl, we'll come back, we'll cover it in a separate video. But micro RPG is really, really similar to it. So micro RPG was probably very much influenced by the game that influenced Borg. So we're probably reverse engineering Borg back to an earlier state of Dark Fort or whatever. What am I looking at for here? I wanted a box standard copy of Micro Chapbook RPG. Because yeah. There you go. Okay. So if we start off with this, if we look and use a standard issue of 1.0 Micro Chapbook RPG as our guide stone, here's Mistress of Shadow. Okay. An early generation episode of Micro Chapbook RPG. We use this as our guide stone. Remember, when we talk about you playing Borg in Micro RPG. Hey, what's going on? Phaedrus is live is there. Dark Fort is pretty good. And Phaedrus is live. You can back me up with this. Isn't the connection between Dark Fort and micro RPG is pretty astounding. There's probably can be no doubt that Dark Fort probably influenced things that influence micro RPG, or micro RPG was influenced by Dark Fort. You know what I mean? Maybe. Who knows? Who knows? But if we could do a couple of different things, there's levels at which we can decide if our desire is to play Borg in micro RPG. We're going off on the road. We're going off to Toledo, but we want to play Borg on the airplane. We want to play Borg in our hotel room. Well, we want to take Borg with us. We could do it a couple different ways, and if we want to do it on in micro RPG, we could take the flavor of Borg by putting it into micro RPG, packing it into micro RPG by packing its flavor in, taking the names of some of the weapons and putting it into the melee and ranged weapon categories, taking the name of the occult herb master and switching it in for the wizard, right? Taking the fanged deserter and putting it in for the fighter, whatever, you know? Taking those flavors, doing the same things with the armors and the items. And likewise, changing the names for the rooms, changing the name of the dungeon, giving it a more Borgian name, changing the names of the monsters to give it a more Borgian feel. That might be one level in which you could convert Borg into micro RPG. But what we want to do is simply use micro RPG as a framework and a system where we can easily play Borg on a regular occurrence without having to worry about the narrative structure. See, because here's the thing, a lot of what people complain about when they complain about, oh, micro RPG, it's an endless dungeon crawl. Oh, friggin' 4 Against Darkness, it's an endless dungeon crawl. That's not what I want from a solo RPG. I want this narrative. Oh man, forget the narrative. I hate narrative. I don't give a fuck about story. I care about numbers. I care about leveling these people. I just care about who lives and who dies. I don't really give a damn about anybody's. I care a little bit about the story, a little bit. But really, what I care about is wanting to produce instances of encounters readily between individual A, my protagonist, my character, and enemies A through D. Honestly. And that's why I like micro RPG, because it's a methodology to generate instances of enemy encounters and treasure and loot generation. It's a loop. That's what I like. Phaedrus' Life says also feels like 4 Against Darkness just with a single character. Without a doubt, that game influenced everything. When I read Dark Fort again, because I had read it before, but when I read it again when it arrived in the mail today, I was like, holy shit, it's like 85% of micro RPG is probably there, right? You know what I mean? It's pretty incredible, but we'll get to it when we cover it. We'll cover it in another episode. But for now, what I wanted to say is this. Let's go through and show you how much we can turn a game of having a copy of Borg, having the rules of Borg, how much we can just switch out and, just use micro RPG to play Borg. Just switch out the mechanics. And I'm not describing any of this particularly well because I'm not a professional educator. I'm not particularly well at explaining things. So I apologize for that in advance. Okay. So let's just take Mistress of Shadow as is. Let's go through it. It labels its different sections 1 through 15, from what is Mistress of Shadow through leveling up. Much of this we won't need. It'll be irrelevant to us. What is Mistress of Shadow? It's an ultra simple role-playing game. We don't care. What do you need? It's 2 6-sided dice. We don't care. Rolling, rules of play. We don't care. Character generation. We don't care. Because why? We're not going to generate our characters according to the rules of Micro Chapbook RPG. We're going to generate our characters according to the rules of Borg. Accordingly, weapons, we're not going to worry about that because we are going to be generating our characters according to the rules of Borg, including random weapon assignment and generation. Armor and items. Now, here's where our first sticking point will arise. And why is that? Because in the items store, we will see that the items have running across them the numbers 2 through 6. Why is that? That is because in the game of Micro RPG, at the conclusion of battle, when the monsters have finally been defeated, you do a treasure roll with a 6-sided dice. On a roll of 1 to 5, you gain that much gold. On a roll of 6, you get to roll on the items list. If you roll a 1, you get nothing, symbolizing the fact that you got nullity. There was nothing in the room, a possibility. The one fairness of Micro RPG is that it's limited, that you'll get nothing in a room. You usually get something, even if it's one friggin' gold coin. It's rare that you'll get jack, even though it's a limited possibility. If you get 2 through 6, you get either a small item that heals health, a small item that heals wits, a medium item that heals health, a medium item that heals wits, or a grand item that heals fully health and wits, a full health restore item, like a mega elixir, if you will, using video game terms. Okay, so this was the first thing that I hit where I was like, scratch my chin, because while there are definitely healing items in Borg, there's not a stat like willpower. There is not a stat like will that needs to be restored. There's health that needs to be restored, but there's no item that needs to be restored like willpower. So there's no analog to holy water or ale. There's definitely an analog to bread crust or a potion. There's kind of an analog to the miracle in the form of a medicine box, but I didn't really have an analog to ale or holy water. So what to do? Well, tibi teotig, the perfect is the enemy of the good. So I think what we're going to end up having to do is a couple of different things. We have a couple of options. Number one is we don't necessarily have to stick to just Micro Chapbook RPG. Though it has us rolling on that item chart, we could say at the end, there's a thing, in the Borg Ferritory, there's this D100 items and trinkets chart that we could roll on to find something terribly unique. We could roll 1 through 5 for a silver, through that much silver. Then they have for this hunting option, we will also automatically get food from the whatever we kill. There's also so we could get the food from whatever we kill. Also on the hunting thing, they have a chart for what we might possibly find in the stomach of the beast. That can include things like a scroll or some interesting stuff. Or the occult herbalist has a list of spells with him. So what I thought we would do is this. Why don't we do this? Here's the rule that I'm going to make up. This will mark Borg it. On a roll of 1 to 5, that much silver. 6, item roll. I've got a 3-sided die. If we get a 3, we'll do the D100 out of the ferritory. If we get a 2, we'll do the occult herb master potion list. We'll get something off of that list. And if we get a 1, we'll get Stugatz. We'll get nothing, right? Is that fair? Because that preserves the option of getting nothing. Or no, I should do another list because some of these lists have, all the lists have crap. So we've got a D100, so we'll get that list. Or then we'll do the Belly of the Beast list. Belly list. Okay? So if we finish a monster, we'll we'll do the treasure list. On 1 to 5, we'll get that much silver. We'll do that much silver times 10. We'll do that much silver. Yeah. Because I don't want it to be. We'll see. I gotta see. Hey, Synthetic Rebellion, what's going on, baby? Hey, Synthetic Rebellion says they bought action figures of the Grady twins from The Shining the other day. I think I know which ones you're talking about. It's a good set. I like it. So there you go. So we got items on an items roll. We got items for an items roll. Perfectly Borgian items list for items rolls. That'll give us a good selection of potions and stuff to get and crap to get. Remember also, we have a list of, we have encumbrances. There's only so much I can carry. So depending on my guy, there's only so much I can carry, depending on which guy I get. So it's gonna be interesting. And we'll see if we even get to play. We'll figure it out. We might even just, because we're already at an hour in. We might just be proving a point that look, this is easy to do. Because here's the thing. Then room type. Now, this is the other thing that we do next. Generating rooms. Begin by choosing a random square on the graph paper and generating the first room. Not a problem. Get on my hermetically sealed dice. Pick me a wiener. I literally have a D100. Whoa. Where are you going? Where are you going? Where are you going? Go over there. Over there. Whoa, 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 whoa. Watch out, Catwoman. Come on. Just stop. Stop. Oh my God, just stop. Somewhere good. Stop. What number are you on? 28? I guess. 28? Okay, fine, whatever, dude. That's whatever. So, the room types. Oh, here we go. Oh, well, I need a pencil. Roll the D6. 1. This is how old this version of the game is. It's using a 1d6. Number of squares in the room. This can be drawn anyway, blah, blah, blah. It's got 3 doors. 3 doors down. Now look. So the next thing that we would have to figure out is the door tests. Okay? So the door tests are 5 to 6, the door is unlocked, move through freely. The next one would be the door is stuck. You have to make a strength check to get through. Not a problem, because Borg has a strength ability. So you just do a strength test. Okay, so we'll just do a strength test with a difficulty rating of 12, which is a normal, or we could just adjust it down. We could do it as a 12, which would be a normal fight. Or if we want to say that it's less than a fight with an enemy, we just do it as an 8 if we wanted to adjust it down. But we would just, if we wanted to, we could just say that the door challenges, if battles are 12, we could make them 8. Or if we want to make them the same, we could make them 12. I'm going to make them 8. It says lose 1 will to re-roll and try again. There is no will mechanic in Borg, so there is no will. If we keep on failing the strength check against the door, it's stuck. We just I was right. 8 DR strength check. Number 3, locked. Must make a wits check to get through. Lose 1 will to re-roll and try again. We get out, we take away the will re-roll because there's no will. And instead of wits, we do presence. Presence is our analog to will. So what we're going to have with our abilities, if you read through the description of abilities in Borg and you look through the description of abilities in Microchapbook RPG, what you're going to discover is that they kind of line up for some of them, and then for some of them they're kind of skewed. So agility pretty much works, defend, balance, swim, flee, pretty much works good for dexterity. But when you get defend, it kind of covers also. So then presence, perceive, aim, charm, wield powers. That's wits, pretty much dead on. Strength, crush, lift, strike, grapple, pretty much strength, dead on. Toughness, resist poison, cold, heat, survive, falling. When it gets to the resist poison and the survive, falling, when it gets to survive, the way it works, kind of, it almost works the way charisma works in Micro Chatbook RPG, the way charisma kind of helps you with doing the bravery rolls. So the way it ends up, kind of the way I ended up translating it, is strength is strength, agility is dexterity, presence is wits, and toughness is charisma. Basically, toughness becomes charisma because it basically has to be something. And all it really ends up being for this, it doesn't really matter essentially, because the only way that it works for Micro Chapbook RPG is the fact that for the room types, there's going to be a roll of a d6 to figure out the room types. And because there are 4 stats, generally for the first series of games, the general rule of thumb was there are 4 stats. So 4 out of the 6 rooms are all going to affect one of the stats negatively, i.e., each of one of the rooms is going to have a +1, because it's a roll under system, are going to have a +1 to one of the stats. One of the rooms is going to be a +1 to the strength, a +1 to the dexterity roll, a +1 to the wits roll, and a +1 to the charisma roll. Then one of the rooms is going to be, then either 2 of the rooms is going to have no effect, or one of the rooms is going to have a positive effect and one of the rooms is going to have no effect, right? Something like that. There could be a treasure room, or one of the rooms could heal you, or something like that, right? So when we want to do this, we see that we're going to have no problem, because just all that we need to do is in this. Let's look at Mistress of Shadow and see what's going on with their rooms. Room type. First room, dirt. This room has a dirt floor. There's no effect. Whatever. 2 through 3, on a roll of 2 or 3, we get watery. This room has water in it, +1 to strength rolls. Okay, no problem. We'll just keep that. +1 to strength rolls, +1 to strength rolls, except in Borg, it's a roll over system. So it's going to be a penalty, not a roll. We're not going to hurt ourselves by adding 1 to our rolls. We're going to hurt ourselves by subtracting 1 from our rolls, right? Number 4 is trees. This room is cluttered with trees. +1 to dexterity rolls. That's +1 to agility rolls, or that's -1 to agility rolls. And we're playing Borg. 5, facades. This room has multiple fake exits. Make a wits check or take 1d3 will damage. Well, that makes no sense because there's no will damage. But we could take a presence check. Or take 1d3 damage. Do that. Stone bridge. This room has a stone bridge. Make a dexterity check. Make that an agility check. Or take 1d6 health damage. Now you see, this one has us taking will damage. This one has us taking health damage. So let's see. We have a presence check. Let's do a presence check. And see, we play around. We just grab this one. So we'll just keep it as is. We will keep it as is. Then, so far we're good to go. Can't be sold. So far, we're ready to go. All we need to do, sorry about that, Satan. Get the upright in front of me, Satan. So far, we're good as gold and can't be sold. So far, we're ready to go. If we have 2d6 and our dice ready to play Borg, we're ready to go. We're ready to go. If we're competent to generate dungeons according to the rules of Micro Chapbook RPG, and we're competent that we can roll combat according to Borg, I'm not. Would be getting better after tonight, hopefully. We would now be ready to, and on my second go through, right, then I would go through again and maybe say, okay, well, I don't want too risk to my health. So maybe I'll go back and maybe find some more Borgian names for the room types. Come up with a more Borgian name to Mistress of Shadow. Maybe come up with a name for this antagonist. And then we're going to just use for the monsters. We have the Ferritory. We'll use this D6 list, which is exactly what we need for our enemies. And then there we go. We have our micro chapbook RPG dungeon ready for Micro Borg. We're ready to go. It works perfectly. We're ready to go. We have our rules. We're ready to play Borg. We have our rules. We know what we're going to do. We know that we're going to generate. We know we're going to generate the room. Then we know how we're going to trap. It must make a wits check to disarm the. We know how we're going to do the doors, because the doors can work perfectly, because we know what stats we're going to swap in for what stats. Once we know what stats we're going to swap in for what stats, then we have rooms and doorways covered. Once we have rooms and doorways covered, and once we know what items we're going to switch in for either a 1-for-1 conversion on the 2 through 6 item chart roll, or what item charts we're going to swap in. And then once we know what monsters we're going to swap in on our 1 through 6 monster chart, then we're good as gold and can't be sold. Then all we need to figure out is what we're going to figure out with our guy outside of the game as far as leveling is concerned. My attitude about it is, if we get this guy to survive one dungeon, he's leveling. But you see, that's the beauty of the micro chapbook RPG framework. If you get that framework, that dungeon creation framework, you have a framework that then basically allows you to take any character, because the funnest part of role-playing games for me was always character generation. That's why I love solo role-playing game, and why I love the solo RPG revolution, because the funnest part of role-playing for me was always character generation. The lamest part was sharing the table with other knuckleheads who wanted to tell stories about, oh God, themselves. You know what I mean? Oh, Jesus. Holy crap. My God. When you get an idea and the conception of what people think about themselves. Holy gee. Oh my sweet Jesus. So whatever. I got to go because I got a phone call I got to make. But listen. So the ideal state for me is a state where I can have characters generated that can then be exposed to the Newtonian physics of life within their universe until the physics of their universe cause them to disintegrate. Done. I'm not an expert in the Halloween Oracle. I just opened it up this season. I got it last season. The best of intentions of using it last season. Didn't get around to it. Finally broke the seal this season. Let's see what it gives us today. And then we'll get a traditional tarot card. Not a traditional tarot card, because I'm pulling from the zombie deck this Halloween season. Let's see what we got. Ooh, interesting. Oh, interesting. Eternal love. Love is love, and it transcends physical death. I love it. No pun intended. Love lifts us up where we belong. Boo, boo, doo, doo. Let's go to Stacy DeMarco's The Halloween Oracle Guidebook. See what she's got. What you got for us, girl? When the body leaves us and our souls are above, our possessions no longer, nothing remains but the intertwining of love. All of us are the product of millennia of love. Our parents, our ancestors by blood and ritual all have in some way created the DNA that weaves throughout our bodies. Love, in fact, powers life and death. When most of us first encounter death in our lives, we experience grieving too, and in some ways that feeling could be described as an absence of love and the absence of that person or being. But the kind of love that is often shared between family members, friends, and lovers, separated only by physical death, is the kind that poets wax lyrical about. That is truly eternal and transcends death. Should you choose this card, you are being reminded that love is the most powerful force in the universe. It is more powerful than death itself. Love lingers. It leaves its own legacy, and we should be aware of this every day that we live. For those that are ready for and desiring of a partner, it also indicates that a significant love is close at hand, and to be ready to open up to this new experience. Yodel. Okay. And then let's see what we get there for the tarot. Who knows? Jonah side's pulling for the Eight of Cups. Let's see what we get for. Let's see what we get, and let's see how it plays against. Let's see how it plays against the Eternal Love card from the Halloween Oracle. Always interesting to see when cards play against each other. Pure, especially from different traditions and different decks. 10 of Swords. Interesting. Not the Eight of Cups. Not the Eight of Cups by a long shot. The 10 of Swords. My gosh. A death of eternal love of a different thing. Ending and finality. The eternal love of the grave in a different sense. But oh so Morkborgian. Perchance the most Morkborg of all the cards. At least it's over. It's what some might say about the 10 of Swords. Eternal love. We keep on coming back for more. Morkborg, Merkberg, Dark Fort. We keep on coming back for more. After the 7th misery, we keep on coming back for more. Fan letters, love letters, and appreciation to the karmic burn and the heartburn of attachment and Dooku. Just can't get enough. Just can't get enough. Captain Kirk is climbing the mountain. Why is he climbing the mountain? Because he's in love. Khan! From hell's black heart, I stab at thee. Of all the souls I knew, his was the most human. I love you. I love you. I love you. If nobody told they loved you today, somebody just did. That somebody is CW Chanter, Cable Guy Incognito, Conrad the Magnificent, Corey Bad Celebrity Body Double Impersonator. Things you never want to say about a deposition. It was cathartic. You can ask any attorney, and they will tell you, unless you were the victim of a sexual assault and you were giving victim impact testimony, you never, ever, ever, ever want to say that your deposition testimony was cathartic. Just an aside. Anyway, I love you, though. I do. Okay? I'll talk to you later. Be good. The mysteries continue.